So many investors don't realize it's actually easier to get approved for a DSCR loan on a multi-unit, a 2 through 4, as opposed to a single family house. If you're watching this video, you're probably already somewhat familiar with a DSCR loan or a debt service coverage ratio loan. Again, this is where the lender is not looking at your income. There's no personal income evaluation, no debt to income ratio, no job verifications whatsoever. Lender's really mainly looking at the rental income that the property would perform as a fully rented out property. In this video, we're mainly going to be chatting about a duplex, a triplex, or a 4-unit. A 5 through 9-unit property really has its own set of underwriting criteria and its own down payment requirements. It's actually easier to get approved for a duplex, triplex, or a 4-unit with a DSCR loan as opposed to a single family house. The main thing is the lender's looking at the DSCR ratio. So with a multi-unit property, multiple tenants, multiple different parties living in that house, you're almost always going to have much stronger rental income as opposed to a single family house. Therefore, it's that much easier to get a stronger DSCR ratio. I've closed many DSCR loans on multi-unit properties with as little as 15% down. You need at least a 1 DSCR ratio. So again, this is the rent completely covering the full mortgage payment after taxes, insurance, and if there's an HOA fee, of course, that's going to be considered too. And most lenders typically recognize the lower of the actual market rents or the appraiser's market analysis on the Form 1025. So the lender's going to order the Form 1025, which is going to tell all parties what the appraiser's analysis was of the fair market rents for all 4 units or all 2 units, depending on the size of the property. So lender typically uses a lower of the appraisal rents or the documented leases. That's going to determine your DSCR ratio. That's going to be your ticket to getting approved. And let's say that appraisal comes back a little bit lower than what you're expecting for the market rents. If you're right there and you're pretty close, there's a few hacks and tricks I have to be able to get that ratio lower to get approved. You can buy your interest rate down to get that payment lower. You can raise your home insurance deductible to get the premium lower, and therefore that payment and then adjust it back after you close on the house. The third component is you can change the prepayment penalty, right? So the longer the prepayment, typically the lower the interest rate is. So if your appraisal comes back and you're just a few dollars off, maybe $50, $100, you can follow those tips to get that payment down to get approved on that multi-unit property. In terms of fees and cost, most lenders price out a multi-unit property a little bit more expensive than a single family house. It's just going to depend on the lender, right? So myself being a broker, I can often identify the lenders who might have the same pricing with a multi-unit as opposed to a single family house. Of course, the more you put down, the better the interest rate, the better terms you're going to get, like any other loan. In addition to that, the stronger the credit score you have, that'll help get you lower fees and overall better pricing with a DSCR loan, especially with a multi-unit property. So the difference between 680 versus 700 versus 780 is pretty massive, right? So the higher tier you go up, typically in brackets of 20 points, you're going to get much better pricing. The vast majority of lenders I work with want a minimum of 680 credit. Again, if you're going to be just barely qualifying, you're going to have a pretty fee-intensive loan. This loan is really geared for someone who has stronger credit, ideally above 740, 760, 780 and up typically puts you in that top tier bracket to get that lender's best interest rate available. To qualify, it's pretty simple. For a multi-unit property, lenders typically want to see some sort of rental management experience. And that's a pretty hard stop for a 15% down because you're doing the bare minimum in order to buy that house. They're going to want to see that you've owned a rental property for at least 1 year over the past 36 months. So overall, the biggest underwriting criteria that comes up in addition to the rental income is, do you own your primary residence? Do you have any rental management experience, especially for the 15% down? Do you have at least a 680 credit score? And the lender typically wants to see about 3 to 6 months worth of reserves. So again, 1 month worth of reserves is 1 month of mortgage payment. So the lender's going to want to see that you have some funds in your account to cover operating expenses, whether it be a 401k, stocks, bonds, or just any kind of cash you have in the bank. It'll make them feel a little bit more comfortable, especially lending on a more aggressive 15% down. I'm fortunate to have helped dozens of investors over the past couple years close, especially on a 15% down multi-unit property. It's a really popular product. Any questions you have about this program, shoot me a comment or drop me a message. Thank you.